we use the computer programs in order for the computer to perform some computation for us, right? Because when we do computation on our own, means from 6th standard to 7th, in your school, in your college, we have learned the way to perform computation using algebra, and that is using variables and equations. Yeah, right? Similarly, you are supposed to write the commands for computer to execute or computer to compute. So it makes sense that a C program makes sense if we look at a C program as it is basically functions plus variables. Functions plus variables. Okay, these two, as their name suggests, are going to have the same role as in the computer program as they have roles in computation practice. Right? For example, what is your perception of a function is the general idea about the function, that you give some input, right? And so you give some input to a function, and based on the input, the function will return a output. This is the basic idea of function. Even if you study set, relation, and function subject, that's what functions do. You give an input to a function, functions have some input, and based on the input, the output is there. And similarly, in a computer program also, functions, there are some inputs that you give to a function. When you call a function, you give some input to a function, that is called as giving arguments to a function. Giving arguments to a function. And the function will return something. Okay, will return something. Okay, let's say this is any function. Okay, then in that function there will be statements. There will be statements. The statements that will specify the computing operations to be done. Statements that specify computing operations to be done. Okay. And while you are performing any computation, what do you need? So while we are performing computation, we want to store the values. We want to store values during the computation. We want to store the values during the computation. Right? Variables are used for that. So variable is basically a location in the memory. Location in the memory. Basically, variables are name given to a location. Name given to a location in memory. So this is your main memory, and this is any location in the main memory, and you give it a name like X. Or when you give a name to a memory location, effectively it acts as a variable for a computation purpose, because this location, the content of this location, you can read the content of the location. Let's say this X represents an age of a person. Okay, and your function is basically checking if the person is of the retirement age or not, and retirement age is 60. So it has to first get age is equal to, it has to get the value of x in the age, and then it will perform if age is greater than 60, then it's higher or not, whatever it is. But when you give a name to a location in the memory, it effectively starts working as variables. If you just want to give programmer, then variables is just a variable. You know what a variable is. You know algebra, you know what a variable is. Let's suppose x is the number of apples in the. Let's suppose x denotes this. You know that. Okay? So this is what would be x for the programmers. But what happens in a computer system is that there is a location in the memory. And this location in the memory, you can read the value at that location. You can update the value at that location. And that is why this x is serving as a variable, because you know that variables value can change. That is why it is called variable, right? C program is basically functions plus variables. Functions plus variables. Done. Now, the structure of a C program. If you look at the structure of a C program, you can think about C program as whole of C program as the functions communicating with each other. And there is a special function which is called the main function, and it is from the main function that the execution will start. So every program must have main function somewhere, and from there the program will execute, will start executing at the beginning of a special function, which is the main function. So it is like this: you have a main function, okay. So any program will start from, if this is the first statement in the main function, so any program will start executing from this, okay. And the order of execution of the statements in the function is top to down. So it will execute statement 1, then statement 2, then statement 3, then statement 4, and so on. Okay, number 1 point. Number 2 point is, like I said, that a function will return something. Every function has a return statement, return dash. So look at this. A C programming language is a general purpose programming language. Okay, like how you compute things. For that, whatever is required for your general purpose, all of those facilities are there, like the concept of functionals and variables, all of that goes to facilitate that. A C program, whatever its size, it consists of functions and variables. Now, program begins executing at the beginning of a special function called main, and every program must have a main somewhere. All of these things we have already seen. Okay. Now, when we talk about functions, these functions can be user defined or library. So, from in the main function, it may call other functions, okay, which may be user defined or library. So, this is the structure of a C program. So, you have many functions. Like you can think of the C program as, means the whole of C program as functions communicating by calling one function and another function, right? Your computation or your execution will start from the main function. It has to be somewhere, or out of all functions there has to be one main function, and the execution will start from the first statement of the main function. Now, if there is no function called in the main function, during execution of all the statements, if it does not get into some error or something like this, if no such a mishappening happens, then normally the program will terminate successfully. Now it might happen that when the use of having many functions is that, so as you can assign a specific task to a specific function, so that you do not have to write the entire program in one function itself. I'm taking a very simple example. You have to add two numbers. if they both are primes, then you have to add the two number. Now, in the main function itself, what you can do is, if first you can check it out whether a number is prime or not, and then after finding out, okay, both numbers are prime, then you can add the function, and then you can return the result. This is one way. You have to perform all of this in one function alone. The other way could have been, let's say function 9 is some function, or let's say function 5 is a function. Using the statements in function 5, you basically write the logic to check if the number is prime or not. Okay, this function 5 will return, let's say, true in case the number is prime, and it will return false in case the number is not prime. Then from main function, what you have to do is, first we have to call function 5. Okay, and the function 5 will return true or false, and based on the value that the function 5 returns, you decide whether you have to add the numbers or not. This is typically the flow of a C program language. Typically, this is what happens. Sometimes it might happen that function 5, from main you might call function 5, and while executing the statements in function 5 may call some another function, and then some other function may call some other function. So this is how the control of your program flows from one function to the other, and then it returns back to the original calling function when the outermost function is the latest function that has been called. When it is completed, when it has executed successfully, then it returns something, then the preceding function returns something, and so on. So we will see everything. But this is the overview of C programming language. Okay? Thank you very much.